For over 50 episodes, Kiyaya and Daniel have been here sharing lots and lots of great books. We look forward to the next 50 episodes. Join us every day at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard for Let's Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Maniac Tuesdays and Thursdays continue today with another fabulous guest host. That's right, Kiyaya. Dara Colon, a graduate of Fayetteville State University, class of 2015, is currently a photographer. She loves to read because it allows her imagination to expand. She particularly enjoys reading books that help her grow as a person. Dara says reading helps you to expand your thinking and build good habits that will help you later in life. I know, Kiyaya, I couldn't agree with her more. And Dara is one of the last of our hosts as Maniac Tuesdays and Thursdays conclude in a week. So, let's take advantage. Let's sit back, relax, and get cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel. Are you a singer, an actor, an artist, a crocheter, a knitter, a cross-stitcher, a potter? Are you a crafter? Coming soon to Rude Rangers TV is Crafty Conversations with... That's right, my outspoken friend Kiyaya and I are going to be launching our new show on Rude Rangers TV this spring. Email us at craftyconversations@STITCHINGwolfdesigns.com if you're interested in sharing your story with us. Follow us on our social media accounts. Or check our website out, www.STITCHINGwolfdesigns.com. Or give us a call, 516-274-0350. The possibilities are endless. Stories are such an important part of our lives. Join my friend Kiyaya and I for Get Cozy, because it's story time with Kiyaya and Daniel, where we share some of the greatest picture books and chapters from children's and young adult literature to inspire you to keep embedding literacy into your days. I'm Daniel, and Kiyaya and I are here to share this all with you.
Hey everyone, my name is Dara Colon, and today we're going to read chapter 34 of Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. It was during the second night in the cabin that he heard little voices. They were not soldiers' voices. I'm going in this one. No, that one. That one's bigger. I'm tired. I'm stopping. You stupid meatball. It's right there. Another 2 seconds. I'm staying. Great, you beef jerky. Stay. I'm going to that one. Good night. Silence then. Hold on. I'm coming. That was all. The ghostly soldiers returned, their haunted eyes seeking warmth, food, life. There was no morning, only daylight in the doorway. He pushed himself up, dragged himself outside into the blinding light. The saltines lay in the brown, frozen grass. The next cabin was nearby. January slipped an icy finger under his collar and down his back. He pulled the blanket tighter around himself, but it was too late. The finger had touched the last warm coal of his breath, and his body, fanning the ember, shook itself violently. He walked to the cabin and looked inside and saw a body huddled in the corner. An eye opened, stared at him. Then in succession, 3 more eyes opened. The body divided became two. Two little boys. "Get a load of this meatball," said the one with the front tooth missing. He walks around with a blanket on. "Hey, meatball, why ain't you bring your mattress along with you?" "And your pillow too," screeched the other. Then Missing Tooth whipped off his woolen cap and smacked Screecher in the face. Screecher retaliated, and Maniac had to step back while a two-kid tornado swirled around the cabin. When they finished, they rolled onto their backs, shook their legs at the ceiling, and laughed as long as they had fought. The volume coming from Screecher was incredible, as though a microphone were embedded in his throat. Finally, Missing Tooth rediscovered the stranger standing in the doorway. "Hey, Meatball, you running away too?" "No, not really," Maniac replied. "Well, we are," went Screecher. "Where are you going?" Maniac asked. The answer came from both. Mexico. Maniac bit back with a grin. When they stood, he saw they couldn't have been more than 4 feet tall, or 8 years old. "Well," he said, "it's good and warm down there, but it's pretty far, you know." "Yeah, we know," growled Missing Tooth. "You think we're meatballs like you?" He grabbed a supermarket bag in the corner, opened it. "Look!" It was filled with candy, cupcakes, pies, even a pack of butterscotch crimpets. Maniac's stomach rasped against itself. He remembered how thirsty he was. "Where'd you get all this?" "We stole it," Screecher blurted. The other smacked him with his cap. "Shut up, Piper, you stupid sausage. You don't go telling people you stole stuff." Piper returned the cap slap. "You shut up, Russell. I didn't tell him where we stole it." This time, the fighting was over in less than a minute. But it started up again when Maniac asked where they were from. And Piper said, 2 mills. And Russell said, "Shut up! He might be a cop!" and bopped him good. When they settled down, they stared at him warily. Piper snickered. "He ain't no cop. He's a kid." "Yeah," sneered Russell. "That's how much you know. They got cops that look like kids. That's how they catch kids." They stared at him some more. They moved in cautiously, one on either side. They opened his blanket. They patted him all over. "What are we doing this for?" Piper wanted to know. "We're feeling for a gun," Russell explained. "Oh." After the patting, they backed off. "So," said Russell, "you ain't a cop?" "Not me," said Maniac. He moved in from the doorway. "I'm," and with only a moment's pause, the story came to him. "A pizza delivery boy. We have a contest every week, and you two were chosen for a free pizza." The two gaped at each other. "We were?" "Yep, a large." "Where is it?" demanded Russell, glancing around. "At Cobble's Corner. You have 24 hours to claim your prize." He waited while they bickered over what to do. Valley Forge was a good 5 or 6 miles from 2 mills. These kids might not have made it to Mexico, but they had come a long way and stayed out overnight, and someone somewhere must be worried sick about them. And he had a feeling they weren't kidding about stealing the food. He figured he'd better help them make up their minds. "You know," he said, "you're talking a long way to Mexico. If you come back to 2 mills with me, I'll show you a shortcut." That did it. Soon the 3 of them were trekking past Washington Memorial Chapel, Russell and Piper with their bag, Maniac with his satchel. It was early afternoon when they had walked into Cobble's Corner at Hector and Birch. Maniac produced his certificate for conquering Cobble's Knot, and 20 minutes later, the young runaways were tackling a large pizza with pepperoni. Maniac confined himself to 3 glasses of water and a half-dozen crumpets. The boys agreed with Maniac that they ought to stay the night in their own house before setting out for Mexico in the morning. They were barely a block from Cobbles when Maniac heard a familiar voice. Bellowing and barreling down the street was the fearsome fastballer, king of the Cobras, Big John McNabb himself, and he was roaring mad. Maniac might have taken off, but he found himself clung and clutched by the two little urchins. They huddled behind him like babies on a possum's back as Giant John came red-faced, huffing up to them. "Where you been?" he yelled. As Maniac considered what to say, the urchins peeped from behind him. "We wasn't no place, John. We was right here with this kid. And he ain't no cop either. We checked him out." For the first time, Giant John looked straight at Maniac, a smile across his face. Well, well, the frog man. The smile vanished. "So what are you doing with my little brothers?" And that's the end of chapter 34. Hey everyone, I'm Dara Colon, and today we're going to read chapter 35 of Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. It took a while for everything to get straightened out. First, Giant John had to be convinced that Maniac was not kidnapping his brothers. Then the brothers had to do some more trembling and clinging while John finished lambasting them for running away, which apparently they did about every other week. Then, when the brothers found out that their pizza person was none other than the famous Maniac Magee, the very same one who had blasted their big brother's fastballs to smithereens and finished him off with a home run frog, well, it took a good 5 minutes of rolling on the sidewalk to get all the laughing out of their systems. Which, of course, got Giant John more than a little steamed. Prompting Maniac, who didn't like seeing John disgraced before his little brothers, to say, "Yeah, but didn't John tell you what happened the next day?" And the brothers said, "No, what?" And Giant John said, "Huh?" And Maniac winked at John and crossed his fingers. "Sure, John, you remember." Wink, wink. "At the Little League field the next day, you said I was lucky that all you threw me was fastballs because you weren't ready to reveal your secret pitch, the one you've been working on. Remember?" Wink. McNabb nodded dumbly. "And so I said, well, come on, I can hit anything. Pitch it to me." And you pitched it, and I missed it by a mile, and you kept pitching it to me all day long, and I never even hit a foul ball on it. "What was the pitch? What was the pitch?" chanted the little urchins. It was, Maniac paused for a dramatic build-up, the stop ball. The stop ball? Yeah, and you should have seen it. It comes right up to the plate, looking all fat and easy to belt, and then, just when you take a swing, Maniac got into his batter stance and demonstrated, it sort of stops, and your bat just whiffs the air. He whiffed at an imaginary stop ball. "Wow," said the brothers, gazing up at their big brother. And so Maniac was invited to accompany the brothers McNabb to their home. Despite the cold, the front door was wide open, and Maniac could smell the inside before he could see it. The first thing he did see was a yellow, short-haired mongrel looking innocently up at him while taking a leak in the middle of the living room floor. "Clean that up," John ordered Russell. "Clean that up," Russell ordered Piper. Piper just walked on by. After closing the front door, which was surprisingly heavy, Maniac found a stack of newspapers in a corner. He laid some over the puddle to soak in, and then gave himself a tour of the downstairs. Maniac had seen some amazing things in his lifetime, but nothing as amazing as that house. From the smell of it, he knew this wasn't the first time an animal had relieved itself on the rugless floor. In fact, in another corner, he spotted a form of relief that could not be soaked up by newspapers. Cans and bottles lay all over along with crusts, peelings, cores, scraps, rinds, wrappers, everything that you would normally find in a garbage can. and everywhere there were raisins. As he walked through the dining room, something, an old tennis ball, hit him on top of the head and bounced away. He looked up into the laughing faces of Russell and Piper. The hole in the ceiling was so big they both could have jumped in it at once. He ran a hand along one wall. The peeling paint came off like cornflakes. Nothing could be worse than the living and dining rooms, yet the kitchen was. A jar of peanut butter had crashed to the floor. Someone had gotten a running start and jumped into it and skied a brown 1-foot track to the stove. On the table were what appeared to be the remains of an autopsy performed on a large bird, possibly a crow. The refrigerator contained 2 food groups, mustard and beer. The raisins here were even more abundant. He spotted several of them moving. They weren't raisins, they were roaches. The front door opened, and seconds later, a man clomped into the kitchen. He wore no winter jacket, only a sleeveless green sweatshirt, which ballooned over his enormous stomach. Tattoos blued his upper arms, and his hands were nearly pure black. Stale body odor mingled with that of fries and burgers coming from the Burger King bag he held. Dropping the bag next to the bird remains, he yelled, "Chow!" and took a beer from the fridge. He downed a good half of it on one swig, belched, double clutched, and belched again. He had to know someone besides himself was standing in the kitchen, and, just as obviously, he didn't care. 2 floor quacking crashes came from the dining room. "Geronimo! Geronimo!" Russell and Piper had taken the direct route via the hole. "What you bring, Dad? Whoppers?" "Yeah, Whoppers." They tore into the bag like jackals into carrion. Plastic flew, fries flew, they both wanted the same Whopper. Mashed between the tugging fists, the Whopper splurted sauce and cheese and pickle chips, then split. Russell lurched backward into the kitchen table with his half, and Piper lurched backward in the opposite direction, and with nothing to stop him, sailed right through the cellar doorway and down the cellar steps. The final thud was followed by the truck horn blast of Piper's laughter. When Giant John ambled in, the father said, "Got the blocks?" "No," grunted John. Pulling out a pair of Whoppers, he tossed one to Maniac. "We need more," growled the father. John didn't answer. "We need more." "I heard." McNabb smashed the tabletop. 3 fries and a bird wing jumped on the floor. "Now!" John walked out, nonchalantly munching. "I was busy." The rest of the night was scenes from a loony movie. Scene: McNabb, the father, swaggers bare-armed out in the front door, bellowing back, "Do your homework!" Scene: Maniac retrieves the wet newspaper from the living room. There are no wastebaskets in the house, so he finds a trash can in the backyard next to a pile of cinder blocks. He dumps the soggy papers in the can, which is empty. Scene: small turds of an unfamiliar shape appear here and there along the baseboards of the first floor. "Please don't be rats," Maniac prays. Scene: the cobras come in. They glare at Maniac, but Giant John tells them to lay off. They raid the fridge for beer, they smoke cigarettes, they belch and fart, they curse. Russell and Piper, kitty cobras, pop their own beer cans, guzzle, swagger, belch, smoke, curse. Scene: football game from the front of the living room to the back of the dining room. Except for space, it has everything a regular game has. Running, passing, blocking, tackling, kicking. Ordinarily, the windows wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes. But the windows of this house are boarded up with plywood. Body-blocked cobras fly into the walls. The house flinches. Scene: a faint rustling noise behind the stove. Oh, no rats. Maniac dares to look. It's a turtle. Box turtle, munching on old Whopper lettuce. Oof. Scene, the boys' bedroom. Russell and Piper lie prone at the hole. They fire toy submachine guns at the cobras heading out the way to the front door. Piper jumps and blows Maniac away, killing him at least 15 times. This is how we're gonna do it. Bam, bam, bam. The guns will be real, says Russell, still prone and firing the stock toy gun against the cheek. Yeah, squawks Piper. Real. He flops back to the floor, sprays the hole downstairs. Soon as they start coming in, bam, bam, bam. Who? Says Maniac. The enemy, says Russell. And who's that? Says Maniac. Russell stops firing long enough to send Maniac a "where have you been" look. Who do you think? He sneers. He points the red barrel of the submachine gun towards the bedroom door. Towards the east end. The heavy front door. Scene, darkness, silence. Sometime early morning, Maniac lies between the two brothers on the bed. Do cockroaches climb bedposts? Unable to sleep, asking himself, what am I doing here? Remembering Hester and Lester on his lap, Grayson's hug, corn muffin in the toaster oven, thinking, who's the orphan here anyway? Hearing as he last lowers himself into sleep's deep waters, a door slam, a slurred voice, do your homework, fearing, will I float? And that's chapter 35. Hi everyone, I'm Dara Colon, and today we're going to read chapter 36 of Maniac Magee by Jerry Spinelli. The deal was, if Russell and Piper went to school for the rest of the week, Maniac would show them the shortcut to Mexico on Saturday. He figured if they all managed to survive till then, he'd come up with something. On Saturday, the boys had their paper bag packed, and Maniac had a new deal. Go to school for another week, and he'd treat them to another large pizza. Besides, he said, crossing his fingers, this was volcano season down in Mexico. The whole place was a sheet of red-hot lava. Better wait till it cools down. They bought it, and they bought the same deal the following week. But school was still agony for the boys. It had to be worth more than a pizza a week. But what? The brothers thought and thought about it and soon began to realize that the answer was sleeping between them every night. Ever since the famous Maniac Magee had showed up at their house, Russell and Piper McNabb had become famous in their own sight. Other kids were always crowding around, pelting them with questions. What's he like? What's he say? What's he do? Did he really sit on Finsterwald's front steps? Is he really that fast? Kids started giving them knots, sneaker laces, yo-yo strings, toys, and saying, ask Maniac to undo this, will ya? Really little kids referred to him to Mr. Maniac. The McNabbs ate it up. In the streets, the playgrounds, the school, the attention, not the pizza, was the real reason they put up with school each and every day. They began to feel something they had never felt before. They began to feel important. What a wonderful thing, this importance, waiting for them the moment they awoke in the morning, pumping them up like little basketballs, giving them bounce. And they hadn't even had to steal it. They loved it. The more they had, the more they wanted. And so, when Maniac tried to cut the next pizza for school deal, Russell answered no. No, echoed Maniac, who had been afraid it would come to this. No, said Russell. We want something else. Oh, said Maniac, what's that? They told him if he wanted another week's worth of school out of them, he would have to enter Finsterwald's backyard and stay there for 10 minutes, screeched Piper, who shuddered at the very thought. When Maniac casually answered, okay, it's a deal, Piper ran shrieking from the house. On the next Saturday morning, Russell, Piper, and Maniac set out for Finsterwald's house, about 7 blocks away. They took to the alleys. Along the way, they were joined by other kids who were waiting, their eyes at once fearful and excited. By the time they got to Finsterwald's backyard, at least 15 kids huddled against the garage door on the far side of the alley. Maniac didn't hesitate. He walked straight up to that back gate, opened it, and went in. Not only that, he went all the way to the center of the yard, turned, folded his arms, smiled, and called, "Who's keeping time?" Russell, his throat too dry to speak, raised his hand. For 10 minutes, 15 kids, and possibly the universe, held their breath. The only sounds were inside their heads, the moaning and wailing of the ghosts of all the poor slobs who have blundered onto Finsterwald's property. To the utter amazement of all, when Russell finally croaked time, Maniac Magee was still there, alive, smiling, apparently unharmed. Even more amazing, he didn't come out. Instead, he said, "Say, you guys, how about adding to the deal? If I do something else while I'm here, will you make it the next 2 weeks at school?" "Well, what you gonna do?" stammered Russell. Maniac thought for a moment, then announced brightly, "I'll knock on the front door." 5 kids Finsterwallied on the spot. Several others screamed, "No, don't!" And Piper went into some sort of fit and began kicking the garage door. Russell zoned out, and Maniac took all of this to signify a deal. He hopped the backyard fence and strolled around front. The others went back down the alley along the way. They stationed themselves not only across the street, but almost halfway up the block. And even then, they squeezed together in a bunch as though, if they allowed any space between them, Finsterwald might somehow pick them off one by one. They huddled, trembling to bear witness to the last seconds of Maniac Magee's life. They saw him stand directly in front of the red brick 3-story house, the bile green window shades. They saw him climb the 3 cement steps to the white door, the portal of death. They saw him raise his hand, and though they were too far away to hear, they saw him knock upon the door, and 15 heartbeats at a time to that silent knocking. The door opened. Finsterwald's door opened. Not much, but enough so the witnesses could make out a strip of the blackness. Would Maniac be sucked into the black hole like so much lint into a vacuum cleaner? Would Finsterwald's long, bony hand dart out, quick as a lizard's tongue, and snatch poor Maniac? Maniac appeared to be speaking to the dark crack. Was he pleading for his life? Would his last words be skewered like a marshmallow by Finsterwald's dagger-tipped cane? Apparently not. The door closed. Maniac bounded down the steps and came jogging towards them, grinning. 3 kids bolted. Sure, he was a ghost. The others stayed. They invented excuses to touch him, to see if he was still himself, still warm. But they weren't positively certain until later, when they watched him devour a pack of butterscotch crimpets. And that is chapter 36 of Maniac Magee.
I know, didn't you do a great job, Kiyaya? Dara, we're speechless. Well, Kiyaya is never speechless. But thank you so much, and we can hardly wait for your finishing of your chapters tomorrow. We'll be back, so we can sit back, relax, and get cozy as Maniac Tuesdays and Thursdays continue on Thursday. The next couple of chapters. Have a wonderful afternoon, and remember, reading is power.